Let's start.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the student visit with Lai Lai today. And I want to make an introduction of our two guest moderators today. We have Susie from Lima. Can you wave, Susie?
Hi.
And also we have Diane, who's currently in America right now. Can you wave to everybody, Diane?
Hello.
So both Susie and Diane are participants of our 2020 workshops for emerging arts professionals. So this year the workshops are happening online, but next year we hope to invite everybody to Hong Kong so we can really do the in-person student visits and having more discussions in Hong Kong. So before we start, Susie and Diane, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Susie Cullinan. I'm originally from Melbourne, but based in Lima for many years. And I run the MFA program at TransArt Institute, which is an international residency art school. And I co-direct an arts organization here in Peru.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Diane An. I'm currently a master's student at Williams College in Massachusetts, and I also am a freelance arts writer. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Angie, if you're ready, I think we can start.
Yeah, you can start. And just to share with everybody, we all have virtual backgrounds of life. Mine is actually from our last year's show, Coffee to Brazil, curated by my colleague Chu Chang. And this is actually airlog, taken from installation by Lai Lai.
Thank you.
I actually same image, so if you never notice it, this is it.
I like all these images. Of course, I like all the images I share with you.
All right. So I was hoping, Lala, that we could start with a brief introduction to your background, so your studies, as well as your work prior to the farm and being an artist, and sort of lead up to that.
Yeah, and I'm very glad to share my artistic practice with you guys. And to give a little background of myself, before I describe myself as farmers, an artist based in Hong Kong, I gained my bachelor degrees in fine art in the Chinese University of Hong Kong, CUHK. And right after that, I was lucky to get an offer as a travel journalist in a local Chinese magazine in Hong Kong. So definitely this was a dream job that to many people, and especially to the local one, because in Hong Kong, we can say our Hong Kong people crazily love traveling. So you will find people having their nose in the travel books, and office ladies will find a strategy to get as many holidays as they could for their vacation. Yeah, so I did enjoy the time, but it wasn't very easy job because I didn't get much working and daily experience. So the only survival way is to be having a mind like sponge and try very hard to adapt to the changes and learn to be. You can say I learned to be a foodie. I learned to be a die-hard fans of the amusement part, and even like an expert of some hobbies. Like it's quite crazy, or it seems to be a joke because I remember one's topic is about the gachapon and the capsule toy in Japan. Do you know what's it? The capsule toy? We have the little miniature or toy put inside a plastic ball. So it's called gachapon in Japan. So I need to research on the topics and present to the audience. So it's just like I need to catch up everything in in life and particular destination. So the thought was more about when I was doing travel journalism, I had the thought more on homeland and the fantasy of the destination. So I was thinking, or even at the moment, I do believe we will love everything in the travel destination because we might not have interested in looking into the social problems. And so that, but when we are back to the hometown, so it's reality. So we will be ready for the weird and ridiculous things happen in the society. And yeah, so let me recall that is about in 2010. So I coincidentally joined some of my friends and we protested the village, I mean, we were the Protestants, and we protest a village called Quillinan village from the development of the high-speed railway. And so it was the time we were standing with the villagers, but at the same time, we are questioning that why we were doing so, or what was the reason of protecting the rural farming area in Hong Kong. So even with our slogan, we try to ask the government to reserve the farmland as an alternative way of living. And in the end, the land was taken, and yeah, that's the reality is the train was built, but that at that time, my friend, they founded a collective farm called Sangwoodgoon. So in the early days, I joined the group. So since then, I was one of the core members in the farm. Yeah, so I can share some of the photos at the very early development of the farm. Yeah. Let me check. So this, sorry, it's not the case. It's the past old village. So at that time, so a small land in the old village was given to our group. And so we tried to learn farming. And luckily, the senior farmers, Mr. Yun, he was the one to be a farming instructor. So every Sunday, we will have the farming lesson lecture in the old village. Yeah, so we learn how to do farming, and also the old villages is Go Papa, the grandmom Ko, and she is still farming now in the new village, even she's around 90 somethings. And he is one of our core members, Mr. Chow Si-jong. And it's like 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago, 2010. Yeah, so at that time, we set up the little farm there, but it wasn't easy because we were just kindergarten student to farming. We need to unlearn what we learned. And it's the Chinese New Year time that is in Chinese, Choi Yun Chun and Sangwoodgoon. So Sangwoodgoon literally is called the house of daily life in Chinese, yeah. So it's a setting up of the farm. Yeah. And so we learned farming, and we also learn cooking, making bread ourselves. But at the same time, we are doing patrolling. I'm not sure if I could share larger images. isn't it? I can, so probably could clearly see my pictures? Is it? So we were painting the it's a signature or the sign for the patrolling team. So our group were also doing patrolling around the village, because it's just like the government officer or the metro company, they will send officer to like doing some construction or disturbing the villages. So we are in the team, and the farmland that we were located, it was also a meeting place for the construction meeting of the new village. Yeah, so it is just like a community space in the old village. But after a year, so the land was taken, and the old villagers, they need to move to a new piece of land. They need to buy the land, and so at that time we moved to a new land. Okay. So let me check too. Isn't it I should share the another screen? Yes. Yeah. Oops. Can you see the larger pictures?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah, okay. Okay, it's better. Yes, so why we were farming, because in the social movement, we found that it's just like loop of failures. So every time you fight against the government, the institute, they would just like, actually they're not really responding you. And it's hard to say freedom, even you vote for your government as a result. So we will see how we can try to grow our own food and try to explore the alternative life in Hong Kong. Is it possible to do so? But it is a really long protest or commitment that is hard to survive. Frankly, it's not romantic at all. So even though you could see very beautiful pictures in the farming, and yeah, it's then after we moved to the new land in 2011, so you can see this construction site behind our field. This is actually the maintenance station of the high-speed railway. So it's quite ironic. So we are farming quite close to what we are protesting and rejecting. So we grow seasonal food, and at the same time annually we grow rice. Rice planting was quite popular in Yunnan in the old days. And we practice organic farming. For example, we burned the branches of trees and make it into ashes for the fertilizer. And these are the seasonal crops we grow. So it was like springtime, I believe. So we have the winter and spring harvest, beetroot and carrots. We have some tomatoes. We have potatoes, yeah, and then some beans and cucumbers and some veggie. And so it is pretty hard for the manual work, and we didn't put pesticizer, we put organic fertilizer, and we didn't even put the plastic over the land, because we prefer to have the recycled material of the organic ones putting back to the landfill. So we put some dry grasses and some organic fertilizer donated by the others, or we do composting. Yeah. So for the pest control, we could only picking or putting up the net. It's the physical barrier for avoiding the pest. Yeah, it's the choy shom. It's that some non-bean here. So we keep the practice, and since 2014, we started to sell the harvest to the other people. And so back to the practice, and at the same time, I could say in 2010 to 2014, I never think I will do exhibition or making works on the farming or the footages I took in the field. However, I found that it might be a way for me to express my more personal thinking on the conflict of nature and human. Because when I was selling the vegetable, I had a lot of questions on nature and how we farm. Because even you think it may be a goodwill or ethical correct for farming organically in Hong Kong, and once you are farming, you will find there are lots of conflict. For example, how would you treat the pest, the caterpillars? And it's all about the design of human. Yeah. So that's why I would like to do some more artwork making and share my views on the so complicated contemplation on those areas. Yeah. So this is the another senior farmers. He visited us in Yunnan, and many of us, they gave birth to child, and so we also set up education center, and we rent another piece of land quite next to our production land. So then, is there any question up to now? And yeah.
I thought we could maybe move more into your artistic practice and the intersections between your farming work and your your work as an artist. And I was hoping you could speak more to maybe how your work deals with these ideas of landscape and nature, especially the ways we shape landscape, and also I think what your work indicates how it actually shapes us as well.
So in the following session, I will prepare to review my recent shows these years. So those were mostly from 2017 till now. And the shows include two solo ones. That one was presented in Guangzhou and Hong Kong respectively, and 2018 and 2020. And the most recent ones is the joint show showing in Oil Street in Hong Kong now. And so I would like to share the solo show in Guangzhou, and let me check them. So you see the safari, is it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I would say, the title of the show is called Down into Abyss. In Cantonese, it's called Yokot Lantin. That's all about the desire. Because I read quite numbers of books and articles on how the nature shapes us. I mean, in a way of the food, and also how the plant shape us, because you may think people pick their own choice, but in return, the nature actually reshape it. This is vice versa. It's a very complicated struggles. So in the show, I put a few words, and in the entrance of the gallery, I did interactive fabric installation. It's about the digital printing of the tiles. It's the same of the pattern on the floor. So once you enter the gallery space, you can see it's like a cave that you enter into somewhere. I try to reshape the gallery area into irregular shape of cave, and the fabric will goes up and down in the pattern, and so once you enter the gallery, you will see views of the works. So I quickly give a slideshow on that. I do have a video documentation on the space, the venue. Yeah. So in the show, I included over 10 pieces of video works. From 2016 to 2018. So let me share the documentation first. So I wrongly typed, is this 2018, not 7. Okay.
雖然材料複雜，但係製作 comfort food 嘅方法簡單得匪夷所思。淡忌廉300克，煉奶180克，同你中意嘅嘢食。如果咧有某啲粉碎嘅嘢，就將煉奶加埋落去溝勻備用。將淡忌廉倒入冷凍咗嘅盤裏邊，先慢條斯理咁樣打1分鐘。然後咧，再轉高中速打發佢去到咧蓬鬆朦朧軟身咁就得啦。分3次用膠刮溝入糾結無菌嘅牛奶化合物煉奶裏邊。如果冇機器咧，你只需要好似充咗電嘅手臂咁啊，淨係用打蛋器打到咧手臂酸軟就得噶啦。倒入一個4方形方便儲存嘅膠盒裏邊，冚好，放入現代冷凍室冷藏至少6個鐘，或者過一個無奈嘅夜晚就得啦。因為冰川總係能夠安撫被激怒、被傷害嘅情緒，所以怪唔之得呢度啲人都會嚟㗎。呢100幾年，冰川不斷融化，化成食得到落肚嘅冰川。不過等佢融化咗之後，佢會走入血液，冷卻身體嘅一部分，心啦、喉嚨啦、大腦，再延伸到滿布皮上嘅經絡。最後人亦都變得沉寂無助。 只要冠上 glacier 呢個名，人就彷彿可以喺一塊即將融化嘅物件裏面揾到慰藉啦。即使發覺其實呢度根本睇唔到冰川，冰淇淋裏邊揾唔到雪山，但只要相信國家嘅乳牛喺冇污染嘅草場上面成長，同包裝招紙上面純潔嘅畫面一模一樣啊！乳牛代我睇到冰川。有一次啊，雖然我同朋友都知道冰川係不宜久留，亦都冇能力上到頂峰，不過有一年呢，我哋決定要去睇下冰川嘅真面目，睇下佢究竟係咪真係咁完美啊！冰川嘅路非常之濕滑，我哋舉步難行，但係由於要前進，所以好唔情願咁換咗對會抓傷冰川嘅破冰鞋。嗰一日落咗場大雨啊，真係好狼狽啊！而且冰川充滿咗稜角，喺佢上面行咧，一啲都唔浪漫啊！冰川嗰個導遊咧就講笑咁話：唉，其實落雨、落雪、落咩都好啦，都好自然嘅啫。佢話俾我聽，冰川就好似天然水塘咁樣，喺多雨嘅季節咧就儲存雨水。充足嘅雨水就會形成宏偉嘅冰川，當佢順其自然咁融化，我曾經中意同埋厭棄嘅都會順勢而嚟，再慢慢流走。
Okay. Let's back to stop sharing first. Yes.
Lai Lai, I wondered if I could just ask you about, in many of your videos, we hear voiceover and subtitles, or sometimes just the subtitles without the voiceover. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about where that text comes from that you use in the different videos. What are your different processes for putting together those scripts, I guess?
I think it's just quite ongoing script writing, because I like writing, and I had many ideas in my verbally or on test. So for example, last year, so it's the one you have your virtual background. the work last year was one of my, I can say is my first essay film in the artistic practice. So I had numerous of thinking in mind that it comes on words. But at the same time, I did collecting footages on film, and I have no idea why I took those. So when I reviewed these images, so I have, this is quite challenging for me to do the editing, but I can say is the most precious part, valuable part of my practice is the editing. So that time, it's just like the essay film I'm writing again and again what I would like to tell and why I put those images, moving image, try to make a coherent sometimes, but sometimes it's just like reflecting or seeing something else. It's just like just drifting minds. So it's just playing of the words and images. So once it depends on why I decided to have the voiceover or not. Sometimes I've thought the images itself, and I can say the images could all the time to stand on their own. But sometimes if you have a voiceover, for example, I mostly ask my female friends because it's just like they are speaking for me, I think. And this is there's have a short but confident and also nice voice, and you can follow the verbal description and try to go together what I think I was thinking. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is very, yeah, important part of my creations. Yeah.
Lai Lai, I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about the concept behind Slow-So TV.
Yeah. And this happened, I did 3 versions of the Slow-So TV, and the one we watched was the second one. And I did another version in a local art space in Hong Kong, and I did the third one in Eton, the Tomorrow Maybe art space, that the one I will talk about. But this series, the Slow-So TV, was one of my signature work, I could say, because it comes from a personal experience that when I started learning farming from 2010 to now, in the early years, I could say farming, it seems to be a calm and peaceful practice. You may do meditation when you are reading or when you are having the field work. It seems that everything was peaceful and nobody will bother and no violence. And so, but at the time, I had many struggles and emotional unsettlement in my mind. It's like when you are doing meditation, if you are not stable and you have numerous ideas coming out. So it's not easy to do meditation, or is it the meditation was the time to let you pull everything out? Yeah, so, and you can't really catch it. And it is just like when you were watching TV at midnight. So it's just like you're changing channel. You have no focus, or you are, yeah, it's very desperate, but at the same time, you feel your assistant is thinking and thinking again, and yeah, so that's the where I need is the words come from. Yeah, so TV. So these versions, they are different, and this is really depends on my particular status. So in the early years, I was pretty lost. So the one I did at the very beginning, this was rough, and also I put it in it's just like a dining area. I put a cloth, not very beautifully put, and just make it casually hanging on the ceiling, from the ceiling, and then do the projections, to channel projections with various channels of programs. And they were about like local news on the land issue in Hong Kong, and some were the cooking channel, and yes, and some were the travel stories, and some are the weather report, and it's just like it's a typical TV channels, but for me and for those who would like to have a no focus viewing, you can switch, and I install button on the furniture in the installation. So every time I try to install buttons in the setting. So in the white kitchen, I focus on food. So I put on the setting up of kitchen. I embed a little switch in the plaster shade that's made of the like fruit or cooking utensil in the space, in the bar area. Mm-hmm. So those programs in the show we watch were the cooking channel or related to food, white food particularly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I can talk more about those in the Eton one later. I can show you later. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can say this is just like a way that I reflect my unsettlement when I was farming.
Lai Lai, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your current exhibition before we open up for questions.
The current one. Yeah, the current one is the oil one. I prefer to show you the slideshow instead of the video, because you can watch the video on site. And so I skipped the Eton one, so if we have time, we can go back to Eton one. And the present one is also on fermentation. Fermentation is the topic that I researched these 2 years. Let me try to share this. So the joint show is called The Practice of Daily Life. But in Cantonese, it's called 如果我們還有空間. So literally, this is not only saying practice of everyday life. This is saying if we have space, the space refer to physical one, to some of the artists. But for me, it is refer to the emotional one, the mental one. Let me open that. Oops. Sorry, I need to figure out how I can share this first. Yes. Better to do. Yes. So it is a video installation. And also I put so in the joint show we have 7 groups of artists. So each of the artists we will find 2 collaborators. So I found one designer friends and also the macrobiotic practitioner. It says she was actually teaching me cooking, but besides cooking, she would like to tell us what we could relate food with our personal, emotional, mental status. So in the cooking session, I particularly like fermentation and some sour food. So I can review what actually I was thinking. So in the exhibition, I have set up like installation with fermented vegetable I make.
Lai Lai, I don't think you can see your images.
Is it? Can you? Sorry. I could better share this one.
Yeah, we can.
Is
oh,
it?
Yeah, we can.
Sorry, it's a technical problems. So yeah. So in the area, I had cutted we have recycled wood for the stands and for putting those fermented vegetable I put in the bottles. So these vegetables, they were cucumbers and beetroot mostly. So these 2 of the harvests were those abundant ones in our farm. But at the same time, it represents the seasons of years. It's just like the beetroot, they were harvested in spring because they are growing pretty well in winter and autumn time. And for cucumber, it's a sign of summer. So they grow crazily fast in summertime. Mm-hmm. So in the exhibition venue, I will have some open call for visitors. They could give the empty glass container, and in returns, I will give them the fermented vegetable food, the vegetable. So they could enjoy the harvest, and also I will give them a scene. And in the scene, I wrote about the farming experience and how I find the cucumber and the beetroot gave messages to us. So she is the designer and helped me to doing the packaging. So after that, I could really sell as a product for our farm. But at the same time, it's just like research development and reviewing in the text of the scene and also the script in the video. I did put my thinking on how I find the relations between food craving and the personal craving, the personal eager of, for example, our emotion. For example, if you are eager to eat sour food like me, so I may have a intention of depression of the anger. So if you like to eat something salty, so you may have the feeling of anger and fear. Mm-hmm. So it is about the work. But I would like to tell you more about fermentation, because why I found fermentation was interesting or impressive to me. This is in uncontrolled practice. It's not predictable. It's just like the relationship, the human relationship, and also what we encounter every day in the society. And for example, we had the virus outbreak. We had we have the government to take away our freedom of speech, and so every day we have news of an uncontrolled situation. How we could try to get a protective layer, how we could stay safe in our own container, but we will also recognize that we are in the place that the other bacteria or other bad bacteria, they are all up here outside the container. But how we can gain the power and strengthen ourselves to stay stronger. That's the questions, and that's the things I would like to questions and raise about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some of the last shots of Cold Fire, and I think you shot some demonstrators, and I vaguely remember the phrase from Rot, there can be growth, and thinking a lot about how fermentation produces a lot of new formations that we don't really expect out of our control, but not necessarily unwelcomed. I think we have just a bit of time for a Q&A.
Yes.
So I think there was a question already. I'm just going to read it out. And then after that, after Lai Lai answer that question, anyone else who wants to ask, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask Lai Lai directly. But you can also type in the chat box if you want.
Yeah.
All right. So, oh, I think he just left, but someone just asked, it is not hard to imagine the physical toughness of farming, which often exhausts the practitioner. But in your works, I see quite a lot of delicate observation on food, farming, and their relations to humanity. How can you maintain both your physical and mental strength to do that after a long, exhausting farming day?
Oh, it's just really a very personal and hard, and it's a question for me every day. So because especially in summertime, so after a long day of sunbathing and maybe excessive one, and I sometimes I could only rest on the bed, and it's like doing nothing for 2 hours. Then I will get a nap for 1 to 2 hours and back. And this is not easy to answer the questions. Sometimes I ask myself if I don't have exhibition or presenting venue, would I still doing the video work? Would I still like to do the observation again? It's just like balancing of my mental status and physical status. To me,
it's 10 o'clock.
Working practically on video taking or photo shooting, it's a room for me to do the personal dialogue myself. So it is not about physical working. So you may say the editing or making of work is still exhausting our physical status. I would still need the room for that because it's all about balancing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But sometimes if I don't want to think too much, I will stop and do the physical one, the physical farming and doing exercise. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
we have
right, we
another
have another
question.
Yeah.
Sorry, from Kathy. She says, Lai
Yeah.
Lai, I love your work and the central place of food. You said the fermented foods are products of your state of mind. How did you progress from white food to seasonal foods that are preserved and fermented?
The white food one is more about sign of, to me, it's not, it start from depressions. I mean, the white one, for with the time we would like to stay kind or stay respect to the dead one, we will try to make everything simple. So I pick up white to be in a stable mind of the practice. And but for the seasonal one, I would say it's it depends on the practical need. So we grow seasonal food, and so I pick those seasonal one to reflect what the reality is and what the farm was harvesting, and how I can put it in the real life and preserve it and give to the audience. They may be audience of the exhibition, and they may be the visitors or the buyers in our market. So they are not limited to the exhibition audience. So I could say it's also depends on my progress of mental status. So in the second edition of the slow TV, I would try to, I can say I'm still in a mood of depressions. Yeah. So but after that, I will have a logical and more thinking of what reality is. So I'm going back. I'm trying to pick out those seasonal one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Other questions? You can just unmute yourself and speak.
Maybe I can ask
Yes.
Susie and also Diane 2 questions. So because when we do this matching with artists and also moderators, actually everybody kind of choose who they want to moderate with. So I want, the two, what is the, like, is there a specific reason, or after seeing which work made you want to have this conversation with Lai Lai? I'm just, curious,
Yes, I'm curious too.
I can start. So I have been thinking a lot and doing some research on landscape and biopolitics. So I've been thinking a lot about how artists deal with natural elements in their work, especially in contemporary art. So beyond like 18th, 19th century landscape painting. And I remember watching the video, I think part of the video for Glacier. And I remember this particular scene where there's a machine that's kind of spewing this like really minuscule pellets of, I'm not sure what it was brown, but then the voiceover, you were describing, I think, shaved ice. Mm-hmm. And so I love the juxtaposition of that imagery, and then considerations of like desire and nature. And this mirroring of several images of like our idea of a glacier, of like a mountain of ice, versus like the actual image you're showing us of like what is not like really like something we would want to eat, but kind of like resembles that shape. And then also the idea of the foods we eat that are supposed to resemble nature, or like at least be drawn from nature. So I thought the play of all of those different ideas was really fascinating, something I really hadn't seen that much in contemporary art, I think. So that was, why I was so interested in learning more about Lai Lai's work.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for me, I think I was very drawn initially to your mention of the lifestyle of half farming, half X.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really curious about how you negotiate that and how that then translates into your work. And I was also really attracted to the way you deal with duration or sense of time in your work. And the Slow So TV series was particularly of interest. I thought I was really curious about how you have this kind of long-term commitment to a practice like farming, right? Which, you know, as I think you said earlier as well, it's like, you know, something that takes a long time to learn. It really is a physical and temporal commitment. And then this project of the TV, which sort of speaks to entertainment and distraction and sort of split attention. So I thought that was a really interesting way to sort of deal with this other long-term commitment that you have. So yeah, I think those were the main things. And I think at the moment, I'm particularly interested in practices that deal with farming or sort of rural or agricultural life. And partly for me, that comes from a project I did here last year in Peru, where we worked with some land rights activists who are subsistence farmers living 4,000 meters up on a mountain and resisting a mining project. And so I became quite interested in the rhythms of farming life. So that also drew me to your practice. I was wondering how you dealt with that in a very different context, of course.
Yeah, I think.
And actually, I wanted to ask you about, you had talked about these ideas of mutual support and mutual control that humans and plants have. And then also recently you're dealing a lot with ideas of resistance in your work. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about how you sort of negotiate those dynamics or think about those ideas when you're putting an exhibition together. How do they sort of physically manifest in an exhibition?
That's the case I'm trying to do, but I'm not sure if I can do it successfully and showing those manifestations. So in the work in the Eaton Hotel, maybe probably I share some of the images. It's better for me to illustrate.
Yeah, and also Lai Lai, your face is kind of cropped.
This is too close. So in the Eaton show, and then so this is a show called "Give No Words But Mom." That was a quote from Shakespeare. This is about you better stay silent. So when I'm farming, so I think many farmers will wonder how the nature works and how we research it. It all depends on the mentality of those farmers. So some of the farmers that we would like to research more scientifically and knows everything, every logics and physical, chemicals and biologicals and relations of plants. But some of the farmers, we are thinking still in a human perspective. So in the show, I'm questioning about how we can take plant as a companion, but sometimes we did manipulate each other. So in the show, in the corridor, I have the short video called Talking Plant. So this was about suggestions on why we think plants could talk. It's especially a popular research in the 70s, 80s. So scientists did some experience on trying to connect to the plant and trying to get signals from them. So in the show, I had interactive installation. This is like assemble of these ideas. So I asked my friend to do the Arduino setting, and once you touch the aluminum foil in the plant, you can change the video in the area. So in the video, there are 3 inserted programs. One is called Where the Girl To, and in the video, it describes, in the video Where the Girl, I had the female voiceover. It seems to be doing the weather broadcast, the weather report, or the preview. But in the video, I try to illustrate how humans find their relations or find their scientific findings of the plant, but at the same time, they may not really practical or closely related. And in another video called Like a Stone, it is not here. This is in Like a Stone, like being. No, it's here, yeah. It's right. So it is like putting the plant, the pot of the living plant in a dark area. This is not really user-friendly or friendly to the plant, but I put sorry, it's jumpy all the time. I better stay in the, so I put those plants in the dark gallery area, and this is domestic one that shows the human design of keeping something domestically, and we try to develop a personal connection with them. So it is like where I try to raise the tension of plant and human. In one of the inserted programs, this is called Like a Stone Wing Hop. So it is like the interrogation to the plant. So a voiceover asking many questions to the plant, and the plant did no reply to the human. This is just like a silly interrogation. And it all happens to me, I think, or even to us. We have our own perspective on those, but actually why we were together, I mean the nature and the human, why we are together is not only based on the scientific and physical connection. It is just like a mutual support. And so it is quite mysterious, I think, to answer the questions, how we manipulate each other. So sometimes physically, apparently, we think we domesticating them. But in return, they are grow in their own ways that we sometimes we could hardly find their ways of doing so. And sometimes they're even stronger than we expected. So that's back to the point of resistance that we talked about for quite a long time. And so for resistance, I think, how about if we keep silent, even like the plant, we could still stay strong as we could. So the plants, they are silent. When comparative with the animal, it seems that they have no tendency to speak on for their freedom or for speak for them for their needs. That they reveal it by showing how they could. So in those worst situations, they could still find their own way to survive. For example, in those farmland and the one that destroyed by fire, so they have the recovery rate pretty fast than what we expected. And I think we still have a lot of rooms for from a communication or for connection with plants, how we can strengthen ourselves like them. Mm-hmm. So that's why I had in the scene I mentioned to you for cucumber. So I write in Chinese, but I have the translation from my friend. So the cucumber, they grow crazily in summertime. So we can only follow industriously and garden the fruit at the receptacle. Sorry, my Siri is answering me. So how much strength is needed to be like you, marching proudly in abundance? So how much sensitivity is in your consciousness? So the healthy fruits are green and unbending, and hindered, they turn sweet and scream the apprehension, is it? Yeah. So it's just like a review of in the farming practice. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So maybe we have time just for the last question before we wrap up. Rafi asks, he says that he would love to hear if you have any new contexts or methods of presentation for new works that you are planning or are currently working on.
I had two to three projects working on, and my recent one is my WMA commission, and I plan to do the essay film on the collective farm I'm working in. So I'm planning to do the work in relations to the idea of fermentation, because I find in the collectives, it's all about collaboration, but sometimes it's not that working because we are individual. So in the collectives, how much freedom we could allow each individual to express their own ideas, to find their own pace with the rhythm of the nature. So I will like to put the idea of coexistence in the show that will be presented in September, and it probably will be multiple channel one, the videos. I try to make the space is a unique one, and so audience could grow to visit it freely. It's just like the audience. could see themselves as microbes or the microorganism or the element in the area. Yeah, so you see what's happened in the work. Yeah, it's quite challenging to me because it's a commission work that I worked for nearly 2 years or 1.5 years. So the difficulty is I was in the group for about 10 years, and it's really hard for you to pick what particular thing is important to the outsider. So we have a lot of story, personal one, and again, in these 10 years, we have a lot of social movement, and I try to link up what our response to the movement. I think it's really responding to the current situation, because we are in an area in the society, we try to hope to have a collective words, and instead of the previous, the old hierarchy system, the more governmental one. So we try to have a more down-to-earth idea, but how could we work them out? How could we allow the uncontrolled, unpredictable things happen? That's the struggle we have. Yeah, and I have another 2 projects that is in December. So I'm working with a composer. So hopefully it will be a sound installation collaboration. Hi, thank you.
All right. Thank you. And if anyone is in Hong Kong, please go see Lai Lai's work at Oil Street, and her future exhibitions coming up in September. And
thank you. I hope you see you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Lai Lai.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Susie and Jen, for the amazing moderation, and thank you, Lai Lai, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll put it online, so if you miss anything, you can come back and check out our YouTube channel. All right, thank you, everyone.